Do you remember being a kid and playing and fantasizing about being away from parents, school, responsibilities, and feeling truly free? One Piece is a story all about that feeling and making that freedom a reality. Running for nearly 30 years, Eiichiro Oda's One Piece centers around Monkey D. Luffy and his pirate crew, the Straw Hat Pirates, as they sail the world to find the legendary One Piece, the treasure left behind by the previous pirate king, Gold D. Roger. The majority of One Piece's story is composed of the Straw Hat Pirates sailing from island to island, meeting new characters, making new foes, and getting stronger along the way. Through this narrative structure, One Piece conveys its message, suggesting that whether it's tyrannical pirates or an oppressive government taking away your freedom, it's always something worth fighting for. If you've ever heard anything about One Piece, it's probably something along the lines of, hey, doesn't that show have 1,000 episodes? How does anyone even catch up with that? Are you spending a solid month of your life doing nothing but watching One Piece? And look, I won't deny it. One Piece is a very long series. But hear me out. First of all, it wouldn't have been able to keep running this long if it wasn't good, which it is. It's very good. Second of all, the strategy to get caught up with One Piece is to forego the anime altogether, just read the manga instead. In any case, the reason I bring up One Piece's length is to introduce what the general plot structure of One Piece looks like. Essentially, the show is made up of multiple arcs, and in each arc, the Straw Hat Pirates arrive on a new island, fight some new villain, and then leave, having gained new allies, information about the world around them, or an even bigger fish to fry on a separate island. From this pattern emerges one of the central themes of One Piece, that being the fight for freedom. Out of the 31 arcs that make up One Piece's story, not a single one features an antagonist that doesn't, in some way, encroach on the freedom of others. This plot structure seems a bit odd, but it serves a very important purpose: world building. The world of One Piece is very rich and complex, with many moving parts which are introduced to us throughout the over 1,000 chapters that make up the series. The series introduces us to different forces in One Piece, and what their influence on the world is. We have our central Straw Hat Pirates, but there are also many other pirate crews we meet, both allies and enemies. As the story continues, we're also introduced to numerous antagonists, but many are connected through the world government, the main governing body of One Piece's world. Many tyrannical pirates which the Straw Hats face off against are allowed to roam free by the government in exchange for servitude, along with Navy officers who are equally as evil as the pirates the Straw Hats fight. In general, the main antagonists of One Piece's story are the world government and their naval force. The very first officer of the Navy we see in One Piece is an egotistic despot, using fear and intimidation to abuse his power. This immediately presents to the audience that the government of One Piece isn't to be wholly trusted, which makes sense, after all, our protagonists are outlaw pirates. However, it's not as simple as just officers who abuse their authority, as we see that the corruption in One Piece's world goes far, far deeper than that. From the Navy overlooking tyrannical pirates, to the government enslaving the fishman race, to allowing severe class inequality. However, One Piece isn't the kind of series that's interested in making things as simple as pirates good, government bad. Many characters, such as Garp, Luffy's grandfather, Navy Captain Kobe, one of the first allies Luffy makes, and Fujitora, a Navy admiral who genuinely fights for the well-being of the people, are allied with the world government, yet fight for good. Through these characters, whose morality isn't solely defined by who they're allied with, One Piece shows that questioning the systems around us is usually for the better. The oppression and tyranny that the government is responsible for is partly enforced by the fact that the citizens in One Piece's world are propagandized into believing that the government represents good and the pirates represent evil. Despite this moral complexity, pirates are still our protagonists. The dichotomy between pirates and the world government, while existing in shades of gray, is still presented clearly throughout One Piece. Being a pirate is to be free, not answering to any higher authority other than one's own values and desires. And these values are shown to have a wide range, from Luffy's kind-hearted altruism to the selfishness of other pirates in the story. But ultimately, they're all untethered from authority, and that's what they have in common. The government is a force of oppression and tyranny, while Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates act as the very opposite, agents of freedom no matter where they go. Luffy declares his motivation in the 400th chapter of the series.
支配なんかしねえよ。この海で一番自由なやつが海賊王だ。
解放のドラムが聞こえる。
I realize now that I never mentioned the powers that Luffy has. One Piece is an action series, so I would be remiss not to mention it. At the beginning of the series, Luffy eats a gum gum fruit, which gives his body the property of rubber. He fights by stretching his body out, becoming more powerful as the series progresses. However, at the end of the Wano arc, when he's facing his most powerful yet, Kaido, the king of beasts, Luffy transforms into his Gear 5 form, where his style of fighting becomes truly free. He laughs, bounces, and contorts his body into victory, fighting however he likes. This form reveals the true nature of Luffy's power. The Gum Gum fruit isn't actually the Gum Gum fruit. It's revealed to be the mythical human fruit, modeled Nika. Nika, in the world of One Piece, is known to be a trickster god of liberation. Nika is a god who rebels against the powerful, laughing, dancing to drums, and giving hope to all who see him, just as Luffy has done throughout the whole series. It should be noted that the fictional god Nika has many similarities to the African-American folk hero John the Conqueror, a similar trickster figure who, despite being enslaved, had an unshakable spirit that kept laughing and dancing, acting as a figure of hope. The way that Luffy fights acts as a direct parallel of the freedom that he embodies, and evolves throughout the series. When Luffy first sets off on his adventure, the way he fights is very conventional. He doesn't do too much aside from throw stretchy punches or do stretchy kicks. However, as the series progresses, we see Luffy fight in more wacky, strange ways, stretching his power to the limit. No pun intended. We see this happen gradually. His first transformations involve inflating parts of his body or bouncing his limbs around against the air, hinting that Luffy's powers aren't necessarily bound by conventions of what rubber can do. Gear 5 takes that idea to its extreme, where the only thing that limits what Luffy can do is his own imagination and nothing else. His style of fighting is reminiscent of early cartoons, animated in a way that shows that the show isn't taking itself seriously. Luffy is so free that he's not even hampered by the animation style. His freedom transcends the conventions of the medium. Essentially, Luffy isn't just someone who fights for freedom, he is the embodiment of the fight for freedom. No matter what, Luffy is a character who stands for the oppressed, regardless of who might want to stop him. This is demonstrated through the series in numerous ways, from his carefree personality to the actions he makes. From making an enemy of the world government just for the sake of his friends, to becoming the embodiment of a liberation god, Luffy brings freedom wherever he goes. One Piece's story is all about that freedom, and I'd recommend that everyone ever read it. It rocks.
海は知っている世界